Okay. Our interview this morning is with Paul Farris. Paul was born in Kaufman, Texas, July of 1951. He served in the United States Army from January of 1968 until December of 1972, with one tour in Vietnam. His highest rank attained was Staff Sergeant E6. My name is Dale Dexheimer. I'm not related to Paul in any way. Also in the room is Milton Gibson, our videographer, and Paul's friend Jonathan. This interview is conducted at Burleson, Texas on Tuesday, November 15, 2016. This interview is conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress and also Operation Remember, Burleson, Texas. And with that little intro, Paul, you can tell us about your time in the U.S. military, sir.
Oh, Lord, I don't know where to start. I grew up with a military family. My dad was in World War II in the European campaign. My uncle was in Europe. My dad flew the P-38. My uncle flew the P-40. And they always joked about the P-40 as a counter-rotating prop. It wasn't the right configuration. It always went the opposite, the way normal prop planes went. I grew up in San Antonio. That's where my enlistment started. When I enlisted, I went to Fort Bliss for my basic training, which I thoroughly enjoyed, giving my drill sergeants all kind of fits and everything. I spent 2 months there. Then I went to Fort Knox for my AIT. I spent, I think it was 6 weeks there. From there, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia for jump school, ranger school, and everything. And then my first duty assignment out of that was in Germany. I was there for about a month. Then I went to Korea. I was there about a month. And while I was in Korea, I was in Custer's old unit, the 4th of the 7th Cav. Didn't like it, because in basic you're taught if you meet an officer walking down the road, you salute him, you say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Over there it was Gary Owens. Because at the Battle of Little Bighorn, Gary Owens was the first person killed. And he was the bugler for Custer. Now, why we did it that way, I don't know. But from there, I went to the Republic of Vietnam, which I thoroughly hated. I didn't like it. I was not supposed to go because I was the only son. Nonetheless, I went. I was stationed at Dak To with the 173rd Airborne. I've been wounded twice. I've got the Bronze Star, the Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts. I got a Presidential Unit Citation with 4 clusters. The only good time that I had while I was in the military is when I was with the Golden Knights. I think that's the name. But anyway, they were the Army Elite Parachute team. We'd go around all over the country jumping out of airplanes. And of course, everybody knows only 2 things fall from the sky. And I can't say one, so I'll use the other as a fool. But I enjoyed it. was over there, I was befriended by a full-blood Navajo Indian, and we became real good friends. He never carried a weapon of any kind other than a 6-foot longbow and a knife that was about 50 yards long, it seemed like. But he saved my life when I got my first Purple Heart. We were out on patrol, and I stepped off into a pit that had punji stakes in it, which is bamboo sharpened and dipped in either human manure, cow manure, some kind of manure. And he picked me up and ran 6 miles with my weapon, his pack, and my pack. He ran for almost 6 miles. And if it hadn't been him, I don't know if I'd have been here. And, you know, he went through the whole tour with me. His name was Johnny Swift Eagle. And I can't even remember his last name. Of course, when you're over there, last names don't amount to nothing. He was a real good friend. When I got out, when I finally got cleared, I spent 2 weeks with him on his Navajo reservation, which, man, I felt like a king because I didn't have to do nothing. But the hardest part of me leaving the Republic of Vietnam and coming home is when I got to the airport in San Antonio. I got spit on, I was branded a baby killer, and all of that. And, you know, that really, I'm over there trying to save our freedom, and they're judging me. And you can't judge somebody unless you walk a mile in their shoes. And they're saying baby killer and all this. Well, they weren't over there watching little babies get blowed up because they tried to take us out. And it's just rough when you have to go through stuff like that. It just eats you alive. And you know, I've been out since 72. And I still have nightmares. I still wake up screaming and shaking, cold sweats, because I don't know how to cope with it. But I can't imagine what our boys and girls, our men and women are going through over in Afghanistan and Iraq. I can't imagine. I don't want to go through it again. Because if you've been through Vietnam, you went through hell. After my first Purple Heart wound was the punji stake in my right leg, I got transferred from patrol into helicopters, and I couldn't be happier. I was with a black warrant officer named Houston, and we were what was known then as tree hoppers. We'd fly in the helicopter treetop level to draw the enemy fire so the Cobra gunships could come behind us and take care of business. And I was never school trained to be a helicopter pilot. But if he hadn't showed me how to fly, and I didn't have an interest in learning how to fly, I may not be here making this presentation. Because he got shot, lost his leg. But I brought our chopper back home. The only thing is, he did not tell me how to land it. I could fly it from now till Jesus comes back up there, but I never was showed how to land. And one of the Cobra pilots talked me down, and the only damage that was done is I hit the skids too hard and they folded out. And I saved his life. That's where I got my Silver Star. And this is really hard for me. Because I don't talking about it. Because it's going to bring memories back that I would just as soon forget. You know, it's not easy when you've been in war. People talk about it and say things about it, but until they've actually been in it and seen their buddies blown to bits and their friends get killed, you know, it's hard. It's hard to focus. I wished I'd have never went. But when you're trying to do what's the right thing for this country, I just wish the people of this country would do the right thing by us Vietnam veterans, because they didn't and they still don't. Now, when our boys come back from right now, the fighting that we're doing, they're given a hero's welcome. Even ticker tape parades. I never got none of that. Didn't ask for it. I did what I had to do. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud that I had to take human life. I don't believe in it. But when you're facing somebody that's shooting at you, you're gonna do your dead level best not to get hurt. In my last 6 months in country, we got a new captain because our captain got his leg blowed off. And we were going out on patrol. The hat that you see that I'm wearing now is the type of hat that we wore most of the time. But he would not let us go out on patrol with this type of hat on. He made us wear our steel pot. Number one, they were too heavy. Number two, they were too noisy. And I had it back like this when I got shot in the head, and it went in, gouged out part of my scalp. That's my second Purple Heart. I didn't ask for them. I didn't want them. I don't believe you should be decorated for doing your job. That's what I got paid for. My Bronze Star came when I, being a stupid idiot, charged a machine gun nest and took out 14 of hardcore Viet Cong. And I saved about 8, 9 of my buddies. And, you know, I'd do it again if I had to. But I'm too old. I can't. I would love to go to Iraq and Afghanistan. I would love it. But I can't because I'm just not able. And Uncle Sam wouldn't take me back anyway. Well, I don't know how much time I took, but that's all I've got. How much time did I take?
How much time did you take? Well, I show about 14 minutes, but let me go back here and we'll ask you some questions here, Paul. You went to Fort Bliss for basic. You were 17 years old when you went down and enlisted.
Yes. it was either me going in the military or going to juvenile detention. Cause my stepdad, the one that was in the Air Force, he abused me as a kid, and I mean, beat me with billy clubs, rubber hoses, and all of that. And I pulled a 22 long rifle on him and shot 17 rounds at him and missed. And so we decided, me and my mom, that it would be better if I went in the military. So yes, I did go in at 17.
You said you wished you'd never done it, and that was, I guess, in reference to Vietnam, really.
Yes.
But at 17, certainly you had reason. You just gave us a reason. It was a choice either or.
Yeah.
But you had a family history also of
Yes.
military.
Yes.
So there's that patriotism that you got
Yes.
there. You went off to Fort Bliss.
Mm-hmm.
First time you were away from home?
Yes. Other than trips out playing football for the high school.
So when you got to Bliss, what did you think about that? Were you used to the well, you obviously had some issues growing up as a kid.
I had discipline with the football team, but the funny thing about it, when I first got to Bliss, it snowed. No, it was raining real hard. Third day there, it snowed. When I completed my basic, went to Fort Knox, first day there, it was raining hard. Third day there, it snowed. So I completed my AIT training. I was going to be a track commander of a 114, which is an Army Scout vehicle. My actual MOS was 11 Delta 1 Tango, which we dealt with the Sheridan tanks that had the missile system also. And so when I left there, I went to Fort Benning. First day there, it rained like a son of a gun. And I told that sergeant, I said, you can kiss me goodbye if it snows, because I'm going home. He said, why? I told him, I said, well, when I went through basic, what happened? When I went through AIT, what happened? And this was my advanced training. I said, if it snows, I'm going home, because that's a bad omen. Third day there, though, it was bright sunshine. And, you know, that's the first place I've ever been while I was in the Army that I seen officers treated like dirt, but with respect. If they were late, I need you to drop and give me 50 push-ups, sir. They always added that sir, and they had to do it.
Who was a drill sergeant was doing
Well,
this?
it was the sergeants that were in charge of the paratrooper training. First week there, we went on a zip line, kind of like you see at Water World up there, or Wet and Wild, or whatever it is. And then you drop, because actually with the old chutes that we had, they looked like a big ice cream cone or snow cone. You could jump and it's be like 2 foot off the ground. This is how hard you're going to hit. And they were teaching us how to, the 4 points of contact, the balls of your feet, then you hit the whole foot on the ground, then you roll, and then your fourth point of contact is your backside. And the second week, we were actually jumping. If you've ever been to a Six Flags Texas shootout, it's 250 feet in the air, but you're falling connected. We were actually jumping with the parachute from that distance. Then third week, we were actually 1,200 feet up, jumping out the side of a door. And I'll admit it, first time I looked out and I looked down, no, I'm not going out this. Boom! I got to boot up my booty. But I did it. After that, it was beautiful. I enjoyed every bit of it. But my third jump, I was in the air for 2.5 hours. Because I caught a updraft. And it just kept me floating like a hot air balloon. I finally got to the ground back at the airfield where I took off from. Just as I was touching down, here comes the plane in. But it's some of the things like that that made training all the while. But then when I went into Ranger training, that's when my headache started. They gave me a knife, dropped me out in the middle of nowhere, said, you can gain weight, but don't lose 1 pound or you're out. What am I supposed to eat? I ate grasshoppers. I ate things that'd make a billy goat puke. But when the week was up, I gained 4 pounds. Where, how, I don't know, but I did it.
That was in Benning also?
Yeah. But all of that was at Fort Benning. I did the jump school first, then we went into the Ranger training. I wore the little beret like John Wayne did in the Green Beret. But my time in Nam, most of it was spent wearing these kind of hats because they were more comfortable. I have good memories from Vietnam. Most of them are bad. Of course, when you're stuck off in a country you can't even speak the language. You know, when I was in Germany, German was easy to pick up. Korean was easy to pick up. But Vietnamese, it's something, a whole different ball of wax. But I had good times over there. But most of it was all pure terror, because you didn't know if you were going to go out on patrol, if you were going to come back or not. That was just a fact of life with all the booby traps. They got a lot of stuff, how they got it off the black market, I would imagine, but it's called a Bouncing Betty. It's one of Uncle Sam's favorite booby traps back then, because it'd shoot up about 4 feet and you just explode out. It wouldn't go up, wouldn't go down, it'd just explode out. And if you're within 10 feet of it, bye, nice to know you. And that's why they used it. They used more shooting your buddy or shooting you, because they knew it would take at least 4 to carry you to safety. So there's 5 people out of the battle already. And that's what they did to us. And a lot of the short guys, if you were 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", you were a tunnel rat. And boy, you did not want to go down in them tunnels. And I don't know how many people will see this, but if you want to see a good example of what we went through over there, go to Hillsboro, Texas, and go to the Hill College Museum. They got an excellent display of what Vietnam was like.
Let me go back to Fort Bliss.
Oh,
Way back there.
oh yeah.
You remember Any DIs? Anybody in particular?
Dixon.
And you remember him because?
He was 6'8", weighed 245 pounds, and every one of mine was two of his. He'd take steps so huge that I'd take 2 steps to his 1. But when we first got there, what really stands out is he's up walking back and forth saying, "Men, I'm your mama, your daddy, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, everything." And somebody in the back spoke up, "Well, how about a date on Friday night?" Funny. But we told him, because I was fresh out of football, I was running 5-6 miles a day. And I told him, I said, first morning we woke up 3:30. I ain't never got up no 3:30 in the morning. Shoot. He said, "I'm going to run your pants legs off, white boy." And I said, "Guess what, black man? Let's get it." And he was begging the 4 of us to stop. Because I went in with 4 of my buddies. We went on the buddy program. We got basic AIT and advanced training in our first tour of duty together. And he was begging us to stop. And it was the only hard part about basic at Fort Bliss was the White Sands Missile Range. That desert like to kill us. But
They took you up there for some period of time?
yeah, that was where our rifle range and all of this was at. And see, I graduated high school a full bird colonel in ROTC. And we were going through this one range where they were doing advancing, showing you how to, if you're out on patrol and you're coming in, one man might say apple and you're supposed to say pie, so they'll know who you are. Except in the Green Beret, they use smoke. That's what we did over there. But they had us attacking a simulated VC village. Of course, they had booby traps with rubber on it. And so I was a temporary acting staff sergeant. And this, I can't even remember what his name was, but he was in charge of that part of the range. He said, "I want you to attack that village." So I looked, what am I going to do? I'm a full bird colonel. I know how to read maps. I knew all of that for being in ROTC. So I said, "What have I got at my disposal?" He said, "You got anything you want. Air support, artillery support." I said, "Okay, can I have a map?" Dixon's laughing. I ain't never seen a black man laugh like that in my life. And that sergeant looked, "What's so blank funny?" He said, "Give him what he wants." So I called an airstrike in on the village. And asked her, "How did you learn to read maps? Y'all haven't went through that yet." I said, "Sarge, I'm a full bird colonel from ROTC." "Oh, you're one of them." I said, "Yeah, I'm very proud of it too." But we had good times in basic.
You ever consider officer training school?
No,
No?
I did not want to be one of them sorry suckers. I didn't like officers. But our last 2 weeks, Dixon said he went out and bought a keg himself because we were the top throughout that part of the basic training. We were the number one, and he said, "Go over there and get the helmet from the captain on the other side. I'm not. We went and got it, and he filled it full of beer and set it on the front porch, or on the porch there. Boy, that captain was mad. But, you know, and in AIT at Fort Knox, they wanted us to learn how to build foxholes. So me and a friend of mine, we built a foxhole and hid ourselves because the base commander was going to come out and inspect the troops. It was 3 days before they come back to get us because they couldn't find us. We hid. And the Sergeant Bean, I'll never forget that man. Never forget that heavyset sucker. I don't know how he could do the things he did, but he did them. And he said, "How did you learn to camouflage yourself so much?" I said, "Sarge, I'm almost full-blood Cherokee. If I don't want to see, if I don't want you to see me, you ain't gonna see me, and you can be looking right at me." And he said, "No wonder we couldn't find no tracks or nothing leading up to the place where you were at." I said, "You're right. We don't leave tracks."
I'm going to skip over some stuff here, Paul. You told us where you got your Bronze Star, your Silver Star, your 2 Purple Hearts. And I certainly don't want to lighten the importance of those decorations. You said you were just doing your job, but there's a whole bunch of guys that didn't get Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars, Silver Stars. You did more than most. But I'm going to jump on Navajo friend, Johnny Swift Eagle. He carried a longbow and a knife.
Yeah, the knife was the handle was big enough for his hand, and the blade was about 15, 16 inches long, and he kept it razor sharp. I remember one night we were in camp, and we got pinned down by a sniper. He's standing in the middle of the compound watching. Boom! Got that long bow. I couldn't pull it back. And I was bench pressing 250 when I was in high school. And I could not pull that thing back like that. He got that back. Bam! Shot again. Bam! He shot again, and he let go. Nailed the sniper right there. And the captain, the old one that we lost, he said, "How did you know where to shoot?" And he said, How dumb are you, sir? Muzzle flash. It don't make no difference if you're right-handed, left-handed, Vietnamese, King Kong, or what. You're gonna have to pull it up there. Boom. And he nailed him too. How we doing?
We're doing fine.
I'm not.
What'd the military say about him carrying a longbow? Didn't they want him to carry a firearm also?
No, because he was a Native American Indian. He didn't have to be there. He volunteered to do that.
Well, you just mentioned, are you a large part Cherokee?
Yeah, but I don't know how to go about then, how to find out any information other than that my great-grandmother was full-blood Cherokee, and my grandfather was full-blood Cherokee. But I went in as Paul Farris, and he went in as Johnny. His last, they called him Swift Eagle. They didn't call him Johnny. And that's the sad part about it, is he spent a year with me in Vietnam to come home to die. And that's the hardest part.
Let me ask you about your time there. Did you work with South Vietnamese troops at all?
Yeah,
What'd you think about them?
they were just no different than me, other than the language barrier. I picked up some Vietnamese, but they were just trying to get free from oppression like we did when we fought the Revolutionary War. They just was trying to, same way with Korea. We had South Korean soldiers in our outfit when I was over there. It's the same thing. They were just trying to do what they could to drive out the enemy, and which is North Korea and North Vietnam. That's all they were doing. They were just trying to, and they were,
Generally good troops, though.
oh yeah.
Let me ask you one more thing, Paul. Might be a little sensitive. PTSD. You have some real deep emotional feeling about Vietnam.
Yes, I do.
Have you gone to the VA or anybody for treatment? Are you in any program?
No, sir. I went, and I am under the belief that if you were my psychiatrist and I come in here in 10 minutes, I'm out the door, that ain't helping me. And the medicine they were giving me wasn't helping. I needed to sit down and talk with somebody. And since I went to that doohickey they had one night over at Pathway, I got a chance now to where I can maybe sit down and talk with somebody. But when I'm at home now, my wife and I, we don't even sleep in the same bed because I wake up screaming and hollering and wanting to fight. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still bad. And so she sleeps in one room, I sleep over here. Of course, the main reason, we got 7 dogs, and they sleep with her. And ain't enough room on a queen size bed for me, her, and 7 dogs. But yeah, I was going. I can't pronounce the doctor's name, but 5-10 minutes, you're not going to accomplish nothing. At least to my thinking, I don't think it would accomplish anything. So I just quit going. And I'm going to try to go through this other, what do they call that? Heroes or something like
This
that.
is just the program they had 2 weeks ago over at Pathway?
Yeah, when they had that, honoring them
okay.
too.
Yeah.
But they said that they had counselors that would come in.
Had the 2 fellows from Iwo Jima who were,
Oh,
one
yeah.
was a speaker and the other guy was just there.
Well, they both spoke, but yeah, I can go do that. I think I can get some help that way. Anyway, I'm going to try to find out about it.
What do you do now? Did any training you had in the military, did that help you get a job after you got out or anything?
I'm retired.
What did you do when you got out?
Executive head chef for Marriott Hotel in San Antonio.
Oh. So where'd you learn to cook?
I've always known how to cook.
Okay.
I started there as a dishwasher. I didn't like it, but it was helping me find a place to live, pay my bills. 2 months later, the boss walks in and says, "You like your job?" Well, yeah, it's a paycheck. And he said, "Well, you're good at it, but you're fired." I go, What did I do? He said, you didn't do nothing wrong. We're just promoting you to sous chef. Never knew what a sous chef was in my life. Never even heard the term. Basically, all it is a glorified chef's assistant. 2 months later, the boss walks in. He said, Paul, you like your job? I go, I love it. I've always enjoyed cooking. He said, well, you're fired. I go, oh no. Here we go again. He said, you're now the head chef. Because he walked out. Because I was cooking better than he was. And he said, I'm giving it to you. With the old chef, we were probably, for a fancy hotel like Marriott, and it's open at 11, well, it's 6 to 11 every day, and you're only doing about $4,000 to $6,000 in that time frame, something wrong. We went, when I retired, we went from their best day, they made $7,500. That's not bad. But for a ritzy place like that, that's bad. When I retired after the party, they gave me the numbers. We went from, we'll just use 7,500 to 25,000 a shift. And in fact, about 3 weeks ago, they called me to want me to come back. And I said, no, I can't do it. Because I can't stand on concrete a long time. And then my wife was in the hospital, so.
Well, good job, sir.
Are we done?
Yes, sir.
Good. I can rest.
No,
now.
you did a great job. You've got a whale of a story.